Ant-Man and the Wasp is directed by Peyton Reed, who famously directed Bring It On. He also directed the first Ant-Man movie, which I liked a lot. I'm a huge Marvel fan, and most of the MCU films I've liked up to this point, but the first Ant-Man is higher in the upper half probably for me. It's basically a heist film whenever you look at it. And Ant-Man and the Wasp brings back pretty much everyone from that one. Michael Douglas is back. Evangeline Lilly's back. She's fantastic. Michael Pena's back. And, of course, Paul Rudd, everyone's favorite daddy superhero, is also back. You know, I say that jokingly, but one of my favorite parts about Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel, is that Paul Rudd as Ant-Man is a dad. You know, whenever I am reviewing or looking at films critically that are in a huge franchise or that have similar type aspects to other films, like the Fast and the Furious franchise, for example, I try and look at each film and see what sets it apart. And for the Ant-Man franchise, it's easily the family aspect of it, which I really appreciate. You know, the other MCU heroes don't necessarily have kids or an ex-wife or family stuff that they're trying to keep together and trying to push forward. And that, at the end of the day, that's probably my favorite part about Ant-Man as a character, seeing how he interacts with his daughter and everything like that. And there's some really, really heartfelt moments in this one, especially with his daughter. And if you're an MCU fan, you know that if you're a Marvel Comics fan, you know what eventually happens with his daughter, which I won't get into because that hasn't been addressed in the movies, but wink wink, nod nod. And like I've said already, I am a big Marvel Comics fan. I'm a bigger DC Comics fan, but we won't talk about that right now. But and one thing with Ant-Man is one thing with Marvel in general, to be honest, is that he doesn't really have a ton of great villains, which I thought was very interesting for this film because they used Ghost, who is originally a Iron Man villain, if you care about that sort of stuff from the comics. But all of the changes that they've done to Ghost for this film to make her, it's a woman in this, not a man, which I'm fine with, no big deal. But all the changes that they've done to make her fit into the Ant-Man kind of mythos with Hank Pym, and there's a relationship there, a previous encounter and stuff that hasn't. It's different from the original origin of that character. I was totally fine with. I thought it worked really well. Ghost in this is our antagonist, but she's not necessarily a villain, and I won't really elaborate on that. With my MCU reviews and DCEU reviews that I'll inevitably get to eventually, I'm gonna try and keep them as vague as possible as far as plot goes and everything like that. Just know that I think this villain is good and one of the better Marvel villains that we've seen so far in the films. In kind of a weird way, this almost feels like Marvel's first female-driven type movie. It's not quite the Wasp's movie by herself. It is kind of like a tandem film, a tandem piece, I guess you could say, where it is what the title tells us, Ant-Man and the Wasp's movie. It's not just Ant-Man fighting people, it's not just the Wasp, it's them split apart, and it's really cool the scenes that we get of the Wasp fighting villains by herself without relying on someone else. I thought it was really cool. We haven't really seen that a whole lot from the MCU yet. I know we're getting Captain Marvel, and Black Widow's been in the talks and everything for a while now, and hopefully that's going to start moving forward. But this was very refreshing, I guess, to see from the MCU. And overall, that's kind of what this movie feels like. It's a good palate cleanser after, the dire and sad and long Infinity War, which was a really good movie, but at the same time, I think this is a great follow-up after that to kind of slow us down, get us laughing, and it's more small scale too. It's not, pardon the pun, but it's not as big as the world ending in this kind of storyline. It's more character driven, I guess you could say. Films like this where you can kind of tell a joke at the start of the movie and keep the joke going with different references to it throughout the movie, I really like. I was talking to my brother after we watched it, and we were talking about how if a movie can make you feel like you know an inside joke with just you and the characters that you're seeing on screen and other people around them are like, what are they talking about? But if you feel like you're in on the joke, it's really like satisfying, and it makes those jokes funnier, and it makes them like really hit home. And pretty much just about every joke in this movie really like was funny and made everyone in the theater laugh. It's not like my favorite comedy of the year, but it's up there, honestly. It's really funny, and I laughed a ton throughout the whole thing. Something that kind of surprised me, like, obviously I knew the comedy was going to hit, and it was going to be really funny and everything like that, just because the director was back. It had Paul Rudd, who's a hilarious guy, and Michael Pena, who's making me laugh, like, the whole movie. And also, like, Michael Douglas playing Hank Pym, like, his conversations with Scott and everything in the movie they're just so funny sometimes, with how salty he is and how he's kind of dry in the movie. The comedy always was going to be a surefire, but something that surprised me was the action scenes are really good in this. There's like a car chase towards the end that's just so good and so fast, and like you've probably seen parts of it in the trailers where like the cars are getting big and small and everything like that, and like Ant-Man's over here doing this, and then you have like one character like chasing down a villain, and then you have another character doing this one thing, and they just edit it so well. The MCU is just so good these days about all the technical kind of aspects, and they edit it so well that you're never like lost in the action, even though there's a lot going on. And that really surprised me, actually, how much I liked the action scenes in this movie. You can probably tell if you've made it this far that I actually really liked this movie. I thought it was great. Some things that did bother me, though, Walton Goggins is in this movie as a sorta second villain, I guess, and I really like Walton Goggins. I love him in The Hateful Eight and some of the other stuff I've seen him in, but it just didn't fit the movie. It felt like he was kind of shoehorned in there. And then after you watch the movie and you finish it, you're just kind of like, what was the point of him being in this? And it almost just felt like they were just trying to add another character. I thought he could have been like taken out of the movie altogether, and it wouldn't have like really changed anything, honestly. It just kind of made the movie feel a little bit more bloated whenever it was really this tight and like contained type storyline that was like, you know, going on all cylinders, and then some of the scenes that he's in just kind of like bog it down a little bit. Another thing that bothered me, but isn't a huge problem because it is a superhero film and you kind of have to suspend your belief, there are a lot of plot holes in this. A lot more than the MCU usually has, which is surprising to me, but at the same time, it didn't bother me super bad. During the third act, like they continuously pop up where I was like, how do you explain this, and how do you explain that? And it just gets a little messy towards the end, but it didn't bother me too much. As inevitable with all MCU movies, there is a couple after credit scenes. One like huge hitter that I kind of saw coming, to be honest. I had actually, before we watched it, I kind of predicted it, but I thought it was going to be in the normal movie. And then another one that's not really necessary that I feel like they just put in there. But definitely stay till the end, because it's going to tell you a little bit more about the state that we'll find these characters in as we move forward to the inevitable Avengers 4, whatever they're going to call that. Well, I thought this movie was a streamlined, mostly tight, fun action film. It's really funny, has some great action scenes in it, and of course it's a must if you're a Marvel fan. I mean, you gotta see it, and there's no reason not to, honestly. It is very entertaining and a good way to spend a summer day at the movie theater. I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp an 8.5 out of 10. Just a couple things bog it down for me, Walton Goggins' character, and also some of the plot holes at the end. But overall, like, it's a great movie, and I really liked it, and I can't wait to see it again, hopefully soon. Hey, you made it to the end. Good job. Did you like the video? Did you not? If you did, give me a subscribe, give me a like, give me a comment, give me a kiss, give me something. I don't know, just give me something.